legislator, you should be here. If you are a commissioner, secretary, or deputy secretary, you should also be here. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us at the Downtown Conference. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening, and it's a pleasure to share the stage with Governor Scott as he signs S-135, the Economic Development Bill. My name is Mike Sherling. I met most of you this morning. I have the privilege of serving as the Secretary of Commerce and Community Development for Governor Scott. This bill would not have been possible without the hard work of a great number of people, some of whom are here today. Secretary Rebecca Holcomb of the Department of Education, Commissioner Mike Pichak from the Department of Financial Regulation, Deputy Secretary Ted Brady from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, Commissioner Joan Goldstein from the Department of Economic Development, Commissioner Katie Buckley from the Department of Housing and Community Development. You can tell we have a lot of departments and agencies. Special thanks to folks that do a lot of the work on the ground. Fred Kenny, the Director of the Vermont Economic Progress Council, Chris Cochran from the Department of Housing and Community Development, Tate Brooks and Kendall Smith from the Governor's Office, and Jess Chingers from the Department of Labor. Also present, I think I almost missed, Commissioner Lindsay Curley from the Department of Labor. So if you could give them a quick round of applause for all of them. My closest partner, of course, is the person I almost missed. We're also fortunate to have a number of legislators and committee chairs here. Bill Botzow, Jim Harrison, Charlie Kimball, Linda Joy Sullivan, Patty McCoy, Laura Sibilia, Kevin Christie, and the recently retired Senator Kevin Mullen. So big round of applause for all of them. For the last 5 months, Governor Scott has led us all with a vision and mission to make Vermont more affordable, to grow the economy, and protect our most vulnerable. These are principles formed by thousands of conversations he's had with Vermonters from every corner of our state, and his 16 years of service to Vermonters as a state senator, lieutenant governor, and now as our chief executive. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce my boss, Governor Phil Scott.
Well, thank you very much for your introduction, Secretary Sherling. It really is a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon amongst all of you. And I'd like to thank you for your dedication, your time, and your energy on ensuring our state-designated centers remain active and creative. I want to also congratulate Paul Brune for your Lifetime Achievement Award that you received earlier today. With all the work you and your team have done to strengthen Vermont's downtowns and villages for well over 30 years, it's very well deserved. And on a personal note, I've appreciated our relationship over the last 16 years of my public life. And while we don't always agree, it's always done in a respectful manner, and it always makes sense to me after we get done talking. So I very much appreciate it. It's well deserved. Thank you very much. I also want to thank our really very talented employees of the Agency of Commerce and Community Development who work on community revitalization and economic development every single day of the year. And I specifically like to acknowledge my leadership team, Secretary Sherling and Deputy Secretary Ted Brady, as well as the teams in community planning and revitalization, historic preservation, marketing and tourism, and economic development. Keeping our downtowns and villages vibrant is not easy. It represents many years of determination and work from the community, including federal, state, local, and nonprofit partners working together to make our communities so much better. This is important work as our downtowns and villages define Vermont's identity and brand and contribute to our high-quality life and well-being. Many Vermonters work and live in and around these centers, and they play a significant part in the $2.5 billion that's spent annually by tourists and vacation second homeowners. We have seen that targeted investments in Vermont's downtowns jumpstarts the transformative projects like in my hometown of Barrie, St. Albans, and right here in White River Junction, which have brought more jobs, business, and housing to downtowns and villages across the state. The 2016 numbers from the 23 designated downtowns shows just over $17 million of public investment in downtown buildings and infrastructure, leveraged nearly $90 million in private investment. During that same period, White River Junction downtown has seen $4.4 million in new private investments, 11 new businesses, 42 new jobs, and 22 new housing units. It's encouraging when we see these results and see more and more people living and working in our downtowns and villages, because creating jobs and creating more jobs and things to do is critical to keeping our young Vermonters here and drawing new families and businesses to Vermont. Research has shown that companies are more likely to relocate and invest in walkable downtown locations to attract and retain that talent, build a brand identity, and foster company culture. This is one of the many reasons downtown and village center revitalizations are key to my economic development strategy. Getting our economy moving and growing again is a priority for Vermont's communities, families, and businesses, and the top priority for my administration. Experts agree that investment today in housing and infrastructure in growth centers creates jobs, leverages private investment, boosts local property tax revenues, and builds stronger communities, neighborhoods, and regions. This year, with the support of the legislature, I'm very pleased several bills were passed that will make our community centers even stronger. S35 makes development faster and more affordable by exempting housing projects in state-designated centers from Act 250. The bill also increases critical investments in our downtowns by increasing tax credits by $200,000, now at $2.4 million annually, targeted at makerspaces and co-working spaces as well. And while I know Mayor Liz Gamache will comment on this shortly, I'm pleased to say this legislation enables 6 new TIF districts. As well, this bill supports smaller, less populated areas with rural economic development infrastructure districts. It makes Vermont more affordable by reducing employers' contributions to the Workers' Compensation Fund. It also creates a career pathways coordinator within the Agency of Education to develop a more effective system for Vermont. It also directs Vermont to study and implement the Green Mountain Secure Retirement Plan, a voluntary retirement program for businesses with 50 or fewer employees. Again, I want to thank those who worked incredibly hard to get this bill passed. These investments and policy changes will strengthen the economy, make Vermont more affordable, and protect the most vulnerable. And lastly, I don't need to remind anyone here, but we can't forget to shop in our downtowns. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Representative Bill Matzo, who chairs the House Commerce and Community Development Committee, and whose leadership was helpful and essential in shepherding this bill through. With that,
well, it's a pleasure to be here. What feels like the first day of summer for all of us. I think the governor's done a good job of covering some of the highlights of the bill. I would like to just have a few very brief remarks, but I have to say, to start with, there are many thank yous, including to our partners in the administration, but also to Speaker Johnson and Pro Tem Ash, for their work and guidance on making sure that this was a priority bill this year. It was, frankly, a must-pass bill. I'd also like to thank, when we come to the end, we have conference committees, and my Vice Chair, Representative Marcotte from up in Newport, and Representative Condon, who worked with them for years now, and they were great. I'd like to say that every committee in the House does economic development, and this year it was true, and I think it's also true of the Senate. So I'd like to thank not only the usual, whenever you touch money, Ways and Means and Appropriations Committee, but this year the General Committee, the Government Operations Committee, especially on the Retirement Fund, Fish and Wildlife, Energy and Technology, and others really did parts of the bill so that we could move things along in a reasonable but good order. I'd especially like to thank my Senate colleagues, not Senator Ballin and Senator Sorokin, but also I'd like to highlight Senator Mullen, because I'm not going to have the pleasure of settling bills with him anymore. This is part of a chain of bills that we've done over the years, and we have I'd say we make sure to have the usual competition between House and Senate, but I think in our hearts what we both want is the opportunity for Vermonters, especially for those parts of Vermont that are distressed. And you will see that represented throughout the bill. And also, as I said before, the many agencies and departments in the administration, they work with us, and they have stressed the importance of economic development for Vermont. I think every administration does this, but I'm very happy to see that economic development and all the pieces of it are really highlighted in all the work that we do. Everybody has highlights. I won't cover them all. It's a long bill, but there are a few that I think are important because they speak to the population that we're trying to help. We especially celebrate, the retirement plan today, and the Treasurer's work on that. That's a real opportunity for people to have some security for employers' employees. So thank you, Treasurer Pierce. You really led that one and have done a fantastic job along with all your crew, Tim and others. We have work on the minimum wage and benefits cliff. This is really important because there are many people who want to work but find that there are unnecessary restraints. And we need to be able to get this right so that everybody can take advantage of opportunities. And then there's the piece about the State Workforce Development Board really laying out and charting for us is how we are going to be preeminent in workforce development throughout the state. These are big pieces that are very important. And then there are many other pieces I'm sure that mean a lot to you, whether it's the TIFs, whether it's the housing initiatives, and as well as support for business development through community action agencies, that's micro development, and small business development, and economic development marketing. So those all mean a lot. But I want to mention one piece that I think lies close to my heart, is that this year the House Committee was charged with workforce development under our purview. And often that's been in education, and with all the respect to them, is I think the piece that we're doing with the Career Pathway Coordinator to basically get at that problem of employers seeking employees and employees seeking employers and having those challenges. This is a position we really need and we really want to be the best in the country at. There's more I could talk about. It's been a great pleasure. I'd like to thank all of my committee, many of whom are here today, and thank you for coming up, and thank you for all the hard work and the nights that we worked way too late. But at this point, I'd like to introduce my friend Senator Mullen, wish him well in his future roles, and thank him for all the work we've done together.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see so many faces inside on this beautiful sunny day outside. I feel like it's almost like a going away party. And there's so many people that I've worked with on economic development issues over the years, and it's sometimes hard letting go on some of those. And what brings me back is the words that our governor used just a few sessions ago when he proposed that every committee in the state legislature spend a certain amount of time on economic development, on the economy and jobs. And I thought there was agreement then, Governor, and then there was an issue that came up that took everybody's attention away, and we never really got to where we wanted to be. But even in my new position, I think about, well, how does it affect the economy? You know, how can we keep insurance rates down, or how can we do things better in the healthcare system so that people can afford to have health insurance and be able to afford to work in Vermont? And that goes back to having someone in the governor's office who is fully committed to growing our economy, because we can't tax our way out of the situation that we're in. We have to grow the economy to work. So both the governor and Bill have pretty much summarized the bill, and I actually think that, Bill, over the years we've done a number of these, but I think this is one of the best years ever as far as economic development in the state of Vermont. And when you take what is in S-135 and you couple that with what's in the budget for housing, which is the $35 million housing bond that's going to leverage another probably $70 million of private investment, I think we can definitely go home at the end of this legislative session and say we've done great things for the Vermont economy. And Governor, your leadership has been present throughout, and we thank you for that. You know, over the years, you have different scenarios, and sometimes you feel like your back is covered, and sometimes you feel like your back is not. This year, I knew all along that when we were trying to put money into this bill, that Senator Jane Kitchell would have my back, and that when we tried to expand the tax credit for downtown use, that Senator Ann Cummings would have my back. And Senator Ash made it very clear from the beginning, get out the best possible bill. He kept telling me, don't make it a long bill, do a bunch of little bills. And I knew that, and I hope, Bill, that you don't allow them to just do little bills, because the problem with little bills is they take forever and you never get the whole cumulative effect. So just the tax increment financing piece of this bill could have taken up all our time for the whole session. And you can't allow that to happen. And if you put enough pieces together, you're going to find that people who don't like the TIFs like something else in the bill, and they don't want to vote against the whole bill. So hopefully, Bill, don't let whoever follows me tell you that you can only do little bills, because that's going to be a dangerous precedent to start. Throughout the time up there, it's been a real privilege for me to work with our state treasurer. And I get the privilege to introduce her today. But I can tell you this isn't the first time that Bill and I have collaborated with Beth Pierce, whether it was finding ways to spend more of the monies that was sitting in the state accounts to invest here in Vermont, to do energy efficiency programs and things like that to help our Vermont economy. She was always there. And people ask, what's your favorite piece of the economic development bill? And I say, well, my favorite piece would have been housing, but because we put that in the budget, I'm going to say that the Green Mountain Secure Retirement is really my favorite piece. And I won't get into too much about that, because I'm sure Beth is going to talk about that. But I would just say that every Vermonter should have the opportunity to retire in a way where they are comfortable and they can live a good lifestyle. And when that occurs, every one of us benefits, because they're able to go out to dinner, they're able to spend money in their local communities, and it's something that we should all be very proud of. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Beth Pierce.
Thank you very, very much for those very kind words. I just want to say something about economic development and working with Representative Matzo and Senator Mullen. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to say thank you both very, very much. Now, I do have to say that when I go over to Representative Matzo's committee, and I think it's going to be a half an hour, 3 hours later with the interest rate charts up on the whiteboard, it's a little rough, but we get good results from that, and I want to say thank you very much. And I know, Senator, that you were very, very helpful in getting this piece, the Green Mountain Secure Retirement piece, through and working that through. And I want to say thank you both very much. Also for the local investment piece we did a few years ago. And you're right, we've done $33 million now of local investments, mostly in housing and energy. Other areas too. We just did a piece last year with VSAC. Vermont Student Assistance Corporation, where we invested $4 million and lowered the cost of the student loans that year to the lowest in the history of VSAC. So those are the kind of things you can do when you've got a great team that works together. It's not about politics, it's about getting things done. And again, I want to say thank you to you both, and I'm really going to miss you, so sorry. I wish she was staying here, but we can't have everything. But thank you very much for all the work that you've done. Let's give them a hand, please. Coincidentally, my favorite part of the bill is Section C, which is the Vermont Secure Retirement Plan. And what that is about is trying to find retirement opportunities for people in small businesses, and to try to address that issue. We had AARP do a study, and they found that 104,000 Vermonters are in small businesses or all kinds of businesses that do not have access to employer-sponsored retirement plans. That's part of our economic development, as my colleague Senator just said, about having people have adequate income, reliable income in retirement. Then they buy goods and services, and they become part of the economic generator. And studies have shown that when people have those monies available to them, they're less reliant on public assistance. So it is part of the fabric of our economic development. And we've worked for a number of years on this issue. I remember doing some work on this when I was a deputy treasurer for then Treasurer Spalding. And I'm delighted that we've been able to get this piece together. It's been a 3-year process working through some committees. And it is about doing the right thing for the individual, and that being the right thing for the state and the state's economic development as well. I want to thank a few people about it. Number one, I want to thank ARP and Feline Cherano. She's not here today, but I just want to say thank you very much for her work and the advocacy that they did. And I want to thank the team. I just want to mention the people that were on the committee that worked on this. So Monica Hutt, the Commissioner for the Department of Disabilities, Aging, and Independent Living. Annie Noonan was involved, and then later Lindsay Curley as the Commissioner of Department of Labor. Dan Boardman, owner of Hickok Boardman Retirement Solutions. Russ Bennett, founder and owner of Northland Visual Design and Construction and a member of the Vermont Business for Social Responsibility. Rebecca Town, an executive at Vermont Gas. Bob Hooper, a trustee and a board member at the Vermont Pension Investment Committee. And Lindsay Delorier, director of Main Street Alliance, and was my appointee in the study committee. And I made a great choice, so thank you, Lindsay. She's here today. I just want to say thank you. As you can tell, that's a wide variety of different perspectives coming into this, and I think it's a very good program. What it will do is provide a voluntary, I want to stress voluntary retirement option for businesses that have 50 or less employees, voluntary contributions by the employees, and putting together a pooled investment vehicle that will allow them to have advantages in terms of reductions in costs to this, and to take some of the administrative piece, almost all of the administrative piece, away from the employer and put that with the vendor that we will be selecting to manage the retirement program. Businesses, and I just had by the way, I just had the best sandwich. Tim, where was that place? What was it? Tucker Box? Oh, it was fantastic. Okay, so I don't know if they're here, but they were fantastic. But they're working 24/7 on their businesses. They don't have time to sit and vet retirement programs and take a look at what's out there and do the paperwork, fill out that Form 5500. What they need, and they want to provide those things for their employees, but they need a mechanism to do that. This will be a low-cost, best-in-class way to provide retirement opportunities to individuals. We're excited. There's no cost to the state. I want to be very clear about that. No financial liability to the state, but an opportunity to improve the lives of Vermonters and stimulate the economy at the same time. So thank you very much. I just want to point out again that it was overwhelming support in the legislature from Republican, Democrat, progressives. Thank you, everyone, for all the hard work. Thank you, legislators, for all the hard work in doing that. And I'm going to turn it over because this is my favorite part of the bill. I think Liz Gamache, the Mayor of St. Albans, has something to say about TIFs, and probably her favorite part of the bill. So thank you very much. One thing, I do want to say thank you also to the governor very much for your support of this program. Thank you very much, and thank you for the legislature, Tim Ash and Mitzi Johnson for their support as well. Thank you all.
Well, good afternoon. It's just such a pleasure to be here celebrating this marker. Thank you, Governor Scott. Thank you, legislators, administration. Thanks to my fellow mayors of the Vermont Mayors Coalition, who know how vitally important it is to foster economic development in our Vermont communities. We are very, very pleased to see this move in a direction that puts more tools in our toolboxes to strengthen and build our Vermont communities. Smart public investment begets tremendous private investment. When we're smart with that public investment, we get good, important results. So I thought I would just share a little bit of a story that might bring TIF to light for you. A lot of people are confused by TIF. It can seem complicated, but here's what it means in my community and what I think it means for others. I like to take a walk in St. Albans early in the morning, 5 o'clock, 5:30, before the city wakes up. I did that this morning on a spectacular day with the sun out. And as I was walking through Taylor Park with our beautiful fountain and up and down Main Street, I imagined back about 5 years ago or so and what my walk would have been like then. My walk about 5 years ago was a walk on a Main Street where we saw crumbling sidewalks, we saw vacant storefronts, we had blighted properties, and we had a rather gloomy outlook in St. Albans. Today, when I take that walk, it's vibrant. Early in the morning when the city's waking up, I see Main Street full of new and emerging businesses, business expansions. We've got a new parking garage that helps to support the downtown businesses. A new downtown hotel that opened just a few days ago. We have business, new construction, a new Ace Hardware store that brings lots of folks downtown. Coffee shops, breweries, vibrancy. From morning to night, our city is alive. It feels good. And it brings back pride to our community members. We feel good about our community again. So that's a story. Let me share a few numbers for you. When I took my walk 5 years ago, I would have seen about 50% vacant storefronts, a flat ground list. Our municipal expenses were growing at about twice the rate of inflation. It was a tough time. Today, as I mentioned, storefronts are full again. Our grand list, our tax base in the downtown district has increased by $60 million. $60 million, that's about a 40% increase. And from 2011 to 2015, job growth in Franklin County has added about 1,300 new jobs, and of those new jobs, about 72% are in the city of St. Albans. So TIP helps to build that infrastructure that makes this possible. It doesn't just invite positive change, it can invite transformational change. And why does it matter? Our downtowns, our village centers in Vermont are where community, commerce, culture connect. It's where we connect the past to the present and to the future. And it's where those smart public investments will yield tremendous dividends that filter far beyond just the village centers. They will be a positive impact for all of Vermont. So thank you to all. And one thing that I didn't want to forget is a big thank you from the bottom of my heart to Paul Brune, who planted seeds of inspiration for me personally and for many of our community members about 15 years ago in particular, that I look as one of the catalysts that help us to grow in the way that we have grown. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now comes the easy part. I get to sign the bill and make it official. Like that. We need a closer here.
I got it. Thank you all for coming and sharing this great moment in Vermont's economic development history. And we're off to the 3 o'clock version of the program. Enjoy the rest of the day.